Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
Do you just want to go ahead and move the vehicle over to the side?
What's going on?
Once you go ahead and move the vehicle over to the
No,
side, we're going to have
what's-
to get you to turn it off.
Okay, what's going on,
We'll
guys?
explain everything to you in a minute. Just turn your truck off, please.
Okay, what's going on?
We'll explain it to you. Please turn your truck off.
What did I do?
We'll explain everything in a minute. Please turn your truck off.
Okay.
Just for safety precautions.
Can I pull over and somebody
That's okay.
can
Just turn your truck off
and
for
somebody
now.
can pick up the truck? Is that
we'll deal
okay?
with all that in a moment, okay? We got
Yeah.
sufficient lighting.
Well,
behind
obviously
us.
you want to arrest me, right? So can I just pull over so that my nephew can pick up the church vehicle? Guys, this is a church vehicle. Come on, guys.
Yeah. We'll get you to move the vehicle over to the side. After that, turn off the key.
Okay.
And then we'll explain everything over to you, okay?
Okay. Which was, it's a joke. It's really it's a sad joke. It's a Greek drama.
Yeah.
Because, 5 guys to arrest a preacher that's feeding the homeless, it's ridiculous. I'm not a gangster. I'm not a mafia person,
Yeah.
I'm just a preacher.
Adam Soos here for Rebel News, and you very likely heard that Pastor Artur Pawlowski remains behind bars. Well, last week you likely also heard that his brother Dawid Pawlowski was arrested. Now, he's arrested on breach of probation, but the sort of troubling thing is the fact he met most of the criteria of his probation, and the one thing he had to do was community service hours. He did some, much of it not being acknowledged by his probation officer. He struggled to find somewhere where he could do his sort of acknowledged court-approved volunteer service because of his vaccination status. So he's effectively being persecuted against for his vaccination status yet again, which is what the Pawlowskis have spent so much time rallying against. Ultimately, I want to remind you that Pastor Artur Pawlowski and Dawid Pawlowski, the extent of their so-called crimes includes feeding the homeless, opening their church throughout COVID-19 restrictions, and as pastors daring to preach to truckers at the Coots blockade. All of these things, charter-enshrined rights and freedoms that should be defended, are in the world of COVID-19 now considered to be crimes. And for those crimes, Dawid was arrested. Pastor Artur Pawlowski was arrested, and he remains behind bars. We're going to join Dawid Pawlowski in a moment, who has been released for an update on his situation, to discuss his arrest and to talk about his brother's situation in prison.
Well, I was just helping somebody, that needed to move, and all of a sudden, I believe it was a sting operation. This is my thoughts. It was done not by the police, but by the sheriffs, which is kind of weird, knowing that we are doing vigils at the Riemann and the sheriffs are there, and they hear the messages. It was just kind of weird that it was all sheriffs. There was no police present, so they just he ran out of nowhere, like from a slingshot, and started to just freak out and stop the church truck. So I didn't know what I did, so I pulled over, and they kept me for about half an hour in a car, kind of guessing what's going on. He was walking around, checking the car, and reading the sign, street church and everything. And I had to wait half an hour. Then I saw him creeping in, and it was, I think, 5 of them that came to arrest me, which was, it's a joke. It's really it's a sad joke. It's a Greek drama.
Yeah.
Because 5 guys to arrest a preacher that's feeding the homeless, it's ridiculous. I'm not a gangster. I'm not a mafia person. I'm just a preacher that feeds the homeless.
And so the weird thing was, it seemed you were under the impression, Nathaniel, we spoke to as well, Artur's son, was under the impression that they were kind of making it seem like it was just a stop.
Yeah.
And then, it's the second time there's been a check stop or some sort of stop. And they're like, we just happened to find you.
Yeah.
The other thing that's really interesting that Nathaniel mentioned, though, is you were, of course, forced to leave your truck there. And then Nathaniel, by the time he got there to leave the truck, any stop or check, there was no officers left.
No.
So they were waiting by the side of the road. You pull up, they randomly stop you.
Yeah.
Then you're arrested, and then they're gone.
And then they're all packed their tools, their toys, and they left. So their job was done. What was crazy? When they were talking for so long, I seen them make phone calls. I seen them talking to one another. Some of them were putting gear on. was like, what's going on? Like, really, what are they? I started to get worried. Like, what is this? What's going on? And the whole thing was just ridiculous. The moment they arrested me, everybody just left. It's like the way they were walking, it was like negotiating who's going to get the trophy. It was that feeling. So they took me to a processing center, and of course on the cement. They searched my wallet for some reason. I don't understand why, but they did. Like it looked like they were looking for anything. Anything. They were ready to cook things up. That's what it seemed like to me. And so they put me in a cell. And
now, what goes through your head? Obviously, you're seeing them start to put on gear. It's the sheriffs. We've seen tactical gear in the past. I know we heard from Artur that, and we don't know if this is true for sure, but we heard that other inmates were saying that the guards suggested that they should maybe rough him up and their lives would get a little bit better. What's starting to go through your head with this persecution? I know some members of the family have said they're worried they're going to do something dramatic. Are you scared that they might do something dangerous or that they might get violent?
well, you see by the fruits. I mean, this is very alarming. In Canada, this is crazy. Yeah, who knows? At this point, who knows? It's lawlessness. This seems like it's a wild, wild west.
Certainly. We've heard that term from politicians a lot, lawlessness. They talk about the protesters, they talk about the Pawlowskis, they talk about the Coots blockade. They call all of this lawlessness, but I think the real lawlessness is very much in the courts, is in the persecution of your family. So you were out within about 14 hours, I think it was. Sarah Miller working very hard to secure your release. Have you spoken with her? Do you have any updates from your brother, who, unlike you, is still behind bars?
Well, I'm still waiting for the updates. They gave me a charge. Even though we did certain community hours, she denied them. So that's another thing. Like, how can she just deny when we did the community hours? So this is a malicious persecution. Okay, they want to silence any opposition, any person that doesn't go with their rhetoric. I've seen this growing up all the time in Poland when it used to be communism. It's the same tactics, the same intimidations, the same lawlessness, the same disrespect and disregard to the law of Canada. So, unbelievable. What's the sad thing is that we came to a point in Canada where parents are teaching the children now that the police, don't become a police officer, because that is shameful and disrespectful. That's actually bad. This is terrible. That's kind of like what I experienced growing up, again, behind the Iron Curtain. People just did not respect the police because there was such an abuse of power and disregard to law.
Well, it's certainly sad to see these things that so many people, including your family, moved away from: government overreach, authoritarianism, police that are corrupt and can't be trusted, making their way to Canada. Very happy to see that you are out of jail. Hoping Pastor Artur will join you soon. Dawid, thank you so much for this update, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you soon. For everyone out there, thank you so much for joining us for this update. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for tuning in. For Rebel News, I'm Adam Soos. It's great news that Dawid Pawlowski is out of jail for the time being, but his brother Artur Pawlowski is still behind bars. He is counting on your support more than ever. If you want to help pay for his legal defense, you can do so by going to saveartur.com. Any donations made there go to the Democracy Fund, a registered Canadian charity, so you'll receive a tax receipt for your contribution to the fight for Pastor Artur's freedom.